Hello, and welcome to another episode of Down the Aisle. We are very much still in the beginning stages of this series, and today we are going to be talking all things wedding terminology. Now, you might be someone who is planning your own wedding, or maybe you're a maid of honor, you're a bridesmaid, you're helping someone else plan a wedding. And I feel like some of you may be able to relate to me. A lot of the words that we are used to hearing before, we have to plan our own wedding, we're using a lot of these words interchangeably, and that's just not the case. So today, we are going to break down some of the key terminology that you will hear a lot throughout weddings, and I'm going to give you a breakdown of what they mean typically when they happen, if it is something that happens. I did use Google for this, so I have done a little bit of research to hopefully help you guys out that little bit. First up, nice and easy, bride and groom. These are the two people that are getting married. Nice and simple, easy start. Your maid of honor. Now, your maid of honor is usually seen as the head bridesmaid, and she is the one who is responsible for kind of getting the wheels turning when it comes to organizing things that the bridal party are responsible for. She is also going to be this kind of middle person who communicates with the bridesmaids and the bride. Matron of honor. Now, your matron of honor has the exact same role as your maid of honor. The only difference is matron of honor is the term given to someone who is married. So if your maid of honor or your head bridesmaid is married, she is a matron. Best man. Now, your best man is pretty much in the exact same role as your maid of honor or your matron of honor. They are the head groomsmen. They are responsible for getting the wheels turning when it comes to things that the groomsmen are meant to organize, primarily for the groom. They act as a middleman who communicates between the groom and the other groomsmen. A flower girl is a female child who will generally walk ahead of the bride and scatter things like rose petals. This is on the traditional side, and they may sometimes help to carry the train of the bride's dress as well. Now, a ring bearer is generally a male child who will carry the rings to the altar or to the, I've just forgotten what he's called, to the officiant when the vows are being read. You usually see them being carried on a pillow or something of that sort. Now, when it comes to page boys, their roles are probably similar to that of a flower girl, because unlike a ring bearer, a page boy does not actually bring any rings to the altar. Now, this is more in the case when, for example, in religious ceremonies, the rings are already in the altar and there is no need to bring them to the priest or to the presiding individual. And then you have the roles of the mother of the groom and the mother of the bride. These ones are pretty simple and pretty straightforward, as the name suggests. This is literally the bride's mum and the groom's mum. Similarly, we have the father of the bride and the father of the groom. Obviously, this gets a little bit more complicated if you are someone with step parents, for example, or absentee parents. But in a situation where both sets of parents have remained together, or there is only the mother and the father, there's no steps or anything, that is who the roles are allocated to. Wedding favors. Now, remember when we were little kids and you would go to a party for a friend or someone and you'd come home with a party bag, or if you went to the Easter show, you would buy a show bag. Well, this is kind of similar to what wedding favors are. Wedding favors are generally something that the guests can take home with them as a momentum. Some people choose to make their own wedding favors that kind of symbolize them a little bit more, while some people just opt to purchase little gimmick pieces online. Either way is fine, because obviously one generally tends to be a little bit more labor intensive. Next up is celebrant. Now, for those of you who are not doing a religious ceremony of any sort, you will need to find a celebrant. A celebrant is someone who has the power to marry you. So they have the power to officiate over a wedding, and they have the power to witness and sign, basically saying that you are married. Now, if you're doing it in a religious context, then your priest, for example, is your officiant or your celebrant, and you don't need to go looking for one. Next up is ceremony. Now, your ceremony is the official part when bride and groom are married. This is when typically your vows are exchanged, the rings are exchanged, the walking, the bride down the aisle by her father kind of all happens in this area. This basically sums up the legal aspects of getting married. Then we have what is called the reception. The reception is basically a dinner or something of that sort that follows the ceremony. It is the celebratory part of the wedding. It is when everyone drinks and they dance, and it's when, husband and wife do their first dance together, father and daughter do their dance, mother and son do their dances. It's where the bouquet toss happens, and it's, if you choose, where the garter toss happens, and all of those kind of more not so legal aspects of a wedding. Now, I'm going to mention quite a lot of different types of parties. Let's start with the engagement party. Now, as the name suggests, this is something to celebrate the engagement of the couple. This pretty much kicks off, or is one of the first parties related to the wedding. This generally will depend on, one, whether the bride knew, or the bride to be, let's say the bride to be, because she's not married yet, but if the bride to be knows that the engagement is coming. It does take time to plan an engagement party, and these typically happen anywhere between 3 to 6 months post engagement. When it comes to an engagement party, you can do them in so many ways. Some people will do an almost sit down banquet similar to what will be their reception. Some people might choose to just have close friends, close family over at home and do kind of a celebratory drinks situation there. Others may opt to go to, a bit more of a relaxed environment and do kind of a bar or something of that sort. Next up is the bridal shower. Now, the bridal shower is an all-female event, and it celebrates the bride. It is usually the responsibility of the bridal party to organize this, but a lot of people now do it in collaboration with the bride, because you do need to generate an invite list. Within a bridal shower, you can find the usual drinks, food, and games, and then traditionally you will all gift a present to the bride. Now, this generally happens 3 or 4 months out from the wedding. You have to keep in mind that we try and keep the month period before the wedding as open as possible, because there's so much to do in that kind of T-minus 30-day period, that a lot of these things are happening, a couple months prior to the big day. Do not mix up a bridal shower with a bachelor or a hens do, because they are slightly different. When it comes to your guest list for the bridal shower, you basically, in essence, take your wedding invite list, you take all the men out because it's a female only event, and you filter through that. The bridal shower generally does include older women as well. So if you've got, aunties, grandparents, kind of a couple generations above you, whereas I will get to it in more detail, your bachelorette party is definitely for your friends and the younger women that are attending the wedding. Let's talk about the bachelor and bachelorette parties, commonly referred to as the hens and bucks nights. This is usually either a night away or a weekend away, and it consists of primarily the bridal party plus extensions of that group. So if you are someone who has made the decision to have a very small bridal party, that is okay. But you can invite more than just the bridal party to the hens do. These generally tend to be your closer friends. They're going to be closer in age to you, because you're probably going to do a few things that you don't want your parents or your older relatives to know about. The hens do, similar to the bridal shower, is something that is planned majority by the bridal party. Obviously it's done in consultation with the bride, and this goes for the bucks as well. It is generally planned by the groomsmen in consultation with the groom. I will say the sentiment of hens and bucks do's have changed in recent years. When I was growing up, it was definitely seen as like a last hurrah to single life, and it was, you know, a night of fun before you got tied down. And there was always this common theme of like strippers and strip clubs and naked firemen. And from me, this is probably coming from both a religious and a personal standpoint. But if you feel the need to have one last wild night before getting tied down, don't get married. It's that simple. If you are that scared of that piece of commitment, don't get married, stay single, go to all the strip clubs you want. Because people, I think, have normalized it so much. And I know people who have called off weddings, you know, the night before or the week before, whenever they're doing these bachelor nights and bucks do's and whatever. I know people who have called off the weddings because one spouse has booked in a stripper, and it happens on both sides. I'm not just saying it's men, women do it as well. There is literally no excuse. If you are that terrified of being married that you feel the need, or you feel that being married or going to get married is the justification you need to hire a stripper, don't get married. That's just my 2 cents. I can definitely say this, that we will definitely be doing a bucks and a hens, but we're going to do it respectfully and tastefully. And I've realized I haven't even really discussed what encompasses a hens and a bucks do. But you've basically got kind of 2 options, whereas one is like a night out and one is a little bit of a getaway. If you were doing a night out, it's normally, you know, dinner somewhere and then you go bar hopping, or you go to a nightclub, something like that. A lot of people will still opt, even if they're doing a night away in their own city, they'll do a staycation type of thing. They'll book accommodation somewhere close to where they're kind of doing all of these activities, and that means that they can stay out as late as they want, they can get as drunk as they want, nobody has to drive home and risk, you know, meeting their creator on the way there. Then you have the other side, which is going away for a weekend. Typically it is a weekend. You have to keep in mind that when people get married, they're normally at an age where everyone has work of some sort, whether it be casual, part-time, full-time, but going away during the working week just isn't always viable. They'll normally do a weekend away. I know in Australia it's really common to do a weekend away interstate, or some people stay in their homestay and they do like a wine tasting, or they book something that's a little bit more fun, kind of an all-inclusive package. Next up is the bridal luncheon. Now the bridal luncheon is organized by the bride for her bridesmaids and her maid of honor as a thank you for all the planning and preparation that they've done for the wedding and in anticipation of the wedding. The bridal luncheon generally happens about a week prior to the wedding, because it is kind of that like final chance of a thank you to all the things that they have done up until that point, and that they will do until the wedding and possibly even past the day of the wedding. Next up, you have the rehearsal dinner. Now, not everyone requires a rehearsal dinner, but I know a lot of people do a rehearsal for the wedding so that you can kind of have a chance to practice how everything's going to go. I do know that this is a lot more common with people who are having their weddings officiated by a celebrant who is not a religious figure, because religious ceremonies for the most part are pretty black and white. There's not a lot of wiggle room, but when it comes to celebrants, you can kind of customize your wedding experience. So generally the night before or a couple of days prior, there'll be a practice ceremony. Basically, you'll go in together as bride and groom, and you'll have all of the other people who will play a role in your wedding. So your bridal party, you know, the mother of the bride, the mother of the groom, the father of the bride, the father of the groom, and you will do a practice run of that ceremony. After that practice run, it is typically followed by a rehearsal dinner, where you quite literally sit down and you work through the script of what is going to be the official reception. So that is kind of your practice. Now, not everyone does this, not everyone requires it, and it is an added cost because obviously someone has to pay for the dinner as well. A rehearsal dinner is also incredibly intimate because it is quite literally just the bridal party or the people involved in the wedding itself. And it is also probably one of the last chances that you guys will have to sit down as what is typically a family unit and kind of embrace the calm before the storm. We have the welcome party. We are on the home stretch of words. The welcome party is typically held a couple days prior to the wedding, and it's a very laid back type of environment. It's drinks and canapes, and obviously it goes without saying that it is an added cost. I will say welcome parties are typically more commonly found in destination weddings, or if you have a large amount of out of town guests, which I think is a very big American thing, I will say, because America has what, 52 states. The states that we have in Australia are huge, and everyone's congregated kind of on the coastline or within reasonable distance of the coastline, so we don't really have a lot of out of town guests. Then you have your cocktail hour. Now, as the name suggests, it's about an hour in time. You can go a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, but a cocktail hour typically occurs in between the ceremony and reception. A cocktail hour is also more common if you are having your ceremony and reception in the same venue, because what it actually does is it gives the venue staff a chance to turn over the venue. It gives them a chance to move things around so that it can be ready for the reception. We also have the bridal suite. Now, the bridal suite is where the bridal party will get ready for the wedding. There are definitely a lot of traditions that come into play, especially I think more with your ethnic communities. There are certain traditions of, you know, the bride gets ready in her childhood home, the groom gets ready in his childhood home, and then there's this whole exchange of buying the bride. I will say, if you are living in Australia, it is definitely more of a cultural traditional thing. It's something that you do because everyone else did it. No one's actually buying a bride for 15 cows. I just want to put that out there. Like, even for us, we would be doing something of that nature, like, you know, the fun and games, and, you know, you have to pay for the bride. But no, like, Bubs is not going to show up to my parents' house with like cattle. Just putting it out there. But yeah, your bridal suite is where you'll get ready. It's where your makeup artist will meet you. It's where your hair will meet you. It's where your bridesmaids will meet you, probably at some ungodly hour at the crack of dawn. I've heard 3 a.m. before. Like, I'm looking forward to my wedding day, but not if it starts at 3 a.m. Now, there are probably 500,000 terms that I have missed, but if I genuinely sat here and went through every piece of terminology that you would need for a wedding, we would actually be here till kingdom comes. But hopefully me putting together this video and kind of explaining a little bit of the ceremony pieces and what happens in the lead up to the wedding kind of gives you a better idea of what you are working with. I obviously do want to emphasize that just because I have referenced it doesn't mean that we are doing it, because that is a lot of parties. I don't have a really good social battery. But that is it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If there are other words that you have learned during your wedding planning journeys and adventures, I would definitely love to hear them, so drop them down in the comments below. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are. Bye!